Okay, we are live on Proline TV, the Our Football Network. We're talking about the NFC North, specifically the Green Bay Packers. We're doing that with our new guest who covers the Packers, Locked On Packers podcast. You can check that out. Link in the description of this video, as well as Locked On Sports Today. That's the flagship show for the Locked On Sports Network. And you can also check out the link in the description for the Leap newsletter covering the Green Bay Packers. And I believe, Peter, you have over 4,000 subscribers for that?
Yeah, I believe the biggest Packers specific newsletter that you can get, at least in English, that I'm aware of.
Okay. And what do you get by subscribing to the newsletter? What's in there?
Yeah, the Leap.Football, we give you everything that you're probably not getting other places. I would say it's much more analysis, what's going on, very much like Locked On Packers, where our log line is the show for fans who know what happened. They want to know why and how. We dig into, the Packers are having third down problems. Why is that happening? What does that look like? And what is the potential solve? It's really, a football fans newsletter, not just like, this is what happened. I figure most people know what happened. Yeah. Let's talk about the other stuff. That's the more interesting thing to me.
Awesome. Again, check it out. Links in the description right now if you haven't seen it before of the video, either live or on demand. So let's get started. We'll start with the obvious one first. And trust me, Peter and I, we've been trying to put this together for a month now. So this has nothing to do with Micah, but just worked out that way. Matter of fact, made it more difficult to set up the schedule. I'm sure you were just inundated with requests after the trade. Yeah. So, okay. So I guess I'll start up by asking you this. Where were you when you heard the news?
I was walking into my door from the grocery store and not expecting news to break. It was like just one of those things on a Thursday where all of a sudden I'm getting text. I got a text from one of our Locked On NFL coordinating producers who was like, "Hey, whatever you need, I'm here." And I'm just like, "What are you talking about?" And so I had to check. I think he said Happy Micah Parsons Day. And I thought he was just prepping me. And then I'm in a couple other group chats and I pull up my phone and someone's like, "It's done. I can't believe it, blah, blah, blah." And I'm just like, oh my, I pull up Adam Schefter's tweets. Then I had to double check that it's actually Adam Schefter and not just, Adarn Schefter or something like that. And so it was one of those things where I was surprised and not shocked, I would say, because I had heard earlier in the day, someone who had been giving me, pretty good information throughout all of this told me in the morning, the Jerry Jones had been the holdup in all of this. And that has since been reported. But it sounded like that relationship was irreconcilable. And so, it was ultimately Jerry Jones who had to give the final say. That was what they were waiting on. And he had told me in the morning, like, it's just up to him on what happens next, because there's an agreement in place, a trade on the table. The contract is all set. It just has to be final say from Jerry Jones. And I was like, that seems too close, right? Like I really didn't believe it.
Yeah.
And then when it happened, I was like, wow, this person had been right the whole time on everything. And so there we were.
Great.
And then my life changed very much for the last, week that we've been here with this. So.
And it's also interesting is for all teams to make a move, it's sort of like a free agent or trade move. You don't really think about the Packers. It's sort of like the Bengals are probably 32nd, but the Packers are not that far behind. They're a development program. They really are. I know Brian Schottenheimer said that the other day. It's like, yeah, I don't know if that really makes any sense, Brian, but he's talking, what he needs to do for the Cowboys' sake. But that's what the Packers are all about, are developing players, and they're not used to making these types of really major moves. So that must feel great for Packers fans, because it wasn't like they gave away anything exorbitant that the fan base should be upset about.
No, and this is the move, right? That every fan of every team wants their team to make.
Yes.
Because they did not mortgage the entire future on this. This is a Packers team that was close. They were, I think third or fourth, depending on what sportsbook you looked at in terms of Super Bowl odds. And so they were a consensus, I would say, fringe contender. Is that fair, do you think, on what they were considered before this trade?
Yes.
And so what they needed, every discussion on every national show I heard, assuming the national places you trust, they were a player away, maybe a field tilter away on defense in particular. And so now that all changes with Micah Parsons, because I think if you had given the Packers the option to trade for any player in the NFL, not named Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, I think they would have picked Micah Parsons. And the fact that they were able to get him and shake this all free is a coup for them. Remember, they were in on the Khalil Mack trade a couple years ago, 2018, but the Raiders, they guarded that and they said, okay, we think the Bears are going to give us the best picks, which is to say it makes them the worst team of any of the teams we could trade Khalil Mack to. That was actually good business on their part, smart to do it that way. The Cowboys didn't do that. I can't believe the Cowboys only got this kind of return. Kenny Clark was going to get cut at the end of this year.
Yeah.
And so to only give up 2 first-round picks for Micah Parsons, I mean, we've already had multiple reports from multiple big-time, like, credential people, Jeremy Fowler and Adam Schefter, say, we've heard from teams who said they would have given more. They would have offered more had they been given the opportunity to do that. And so, you know, that's how some of these things need to happen. That's how the A.J. Brown trade happened. Like, I think there were teams that would have given the Titans more than the Eagles ultimately gave for A.J. Brown. That was a call on a different player. The Eagles had called the Titans about a different player and wound up on A.J. Brown and made that deal sort of in the dead of night on draft night. And so that, you know, that is what you need sometimes to build a Super Bowl roster. You need that little bit of stroke of luck, or you need God speaking to Reggie White saying you need to be in Green Bay. And that's been the bit over the last week that, you know, God spoke to Micah Parsons and, you know, he's got to be in Green Bay now.
Yeah, it is amazing. Like you said, it's every fan base's dream, because especially for a Michael Parsons type, because you could say what you want about receivers or other positions, but an edge rusher, a Hall of Fame caliber edge rusher in the prime of his career, that doesn't, you can't even get the 10th best edge rusher on the market. And this is the scary thing. Maybe not even the prime of his career. We may not have seen the best football that Micah Parsons has played, 26 years old. Yeah.
And he only really started playing full-time pass rusher at the end. Like the first season he did that was 2022. 2022. Yeah. That's not that long ago.
No.
But it's not crazy to think he can be even better. And that is a scary thought for NFC teams.
Yes, and as we take a look at the Ourlads updated depth chart, and as far as defense is concerned, what is now what do you think that would be if an opposing team, the Lions coming in to play the Packers this week? What are they going to try to do to take advantage, if they can, of the Packers defense in any way?
Yeah, 95 and 96, right there in the middle. That defensive tackle position is going to be where they're gonna be tested. It's gonna be duo. It's gonna be inside zone. It's gonna be come downhill and make this team tackle, because the Quay Walker and Adrian Cooper are sideline to sideline players. You want to run outside zone? Packers have the linebackers to stop that stuff. Up the middle, are they the best at taking on blocks? No, they're not. They're not the biggest guys. They're see ball, get ball linebackers. And I think Adrian Cooper at the end of last year was playing as well as any linebacker in the league defending the run. But again, it's in a league where a lot of teams want to run outside zone, or they want to run these pin pull toss plays. And so doing that, Adrian Cooper is great. Is he going to be as good without someone who can eat up blocks the way Kenny Clark could? That's the question. And Matt LaFleur said today, as we're recording this, that it's going to have to be a committee that solves the interior defensive line questions for the Packers. On the other hand, Kenny Clark had, I think, the worst season of his career last year.
Yeah.
Now, whether that's because he was 29 or whether that was because of a toe injury that affected him all year, or a combination of both, this was a top 10 run defense last year without the best version of Kenny Clark. They really like Nazir Stackhouse out of Georgia, the rookie, but he's a rookie, undrafted free agent. Now, he looked really good in practice for the Packers, and it never translated to the games, unfortunately.
Okay.
Warren Brinson, same kind of deal. Looked really good in practice, and it has not quite translated. Now, that's to be expected, right?
Yeah.
Coming from college, practice in the NFL is much closer to college than a game. And so getting up to speed there, getting up to play strength there is going to be where you're going to have the most questions. But here's the good news about playing the Lions in week 1. New center, Graham Glasgow, coming in for Frank Ragnow, who was one of our Locked On Lions host, Matt Derry, said last year, he said Frank Ragnow was the MVP of that Lions team, that he was the most important player on a team with Penei Sewell and Jameer Gibbs,
yeah, sure.
Brown.
Yeah.
It was Frank Ragnow. He's gone now. Kevin Zeitler also out of the building. So they're
Yep.
breaking in a first-time starter at left guard. That's going to be Christian Mahogany. The center is going to be Graham Glasgow. And then at right guard, it's Tate Ratledge, the rookie. So if there's ever a time that group might gel and be really good by the end of the season, to expect them to be great right away with a new offensive coordinator, I think that would be faulty just expectations wise. And so it's a good time to play this Lions team that I think by the end of the year is going to have this run game figured out. They're going to have better chemistry up front, and they're going to figure out if these guys can play or not, right? That's part of this too. We don't know if Tate Ratledge can play in the NFL.
True.
We don't know if Christian Mahogany can play a full game. He looked good for about a month stretch last year, but on an offensive line that was just mauling everybody. It's easier to be the one guy. Now it's 3 new guys. And so for the Packers, I think they're catching this Lions team at the perfect time. The other thing about Micah Parsons, I was asked on radio today, how do you replace Kenny Clark? And my answer was Micah Parsons, because I just think it makes it harder to run on early downs, knowing that if you don't pick up yards in chunks, you're setting yourself up for more opportunities for Micah Parsons to come catch you, right? So it's hard to stay patient that way. And we're talking about in Detroit, a first-time play caller with this group, a guy who has not called plays in a decade and who's only called plays for 1 season in the NFL, and John Morton in his NFL career. So I think right now, this is the perfect time to catch the Lions for the Packers to mitigate some of the questions that they might have as they move through this young part of the season.
Especially because, and I don't have to tell you this, of course, that the Lions have now beaten the Packers 6 out of the last 7.
Why do you have
Swept them
to bring that
last
up?
year. Interesting that the Lions have been the favorite the last 2 seasons.
Yeah.
So the Packers are now the favorite. They were the favorite before the Parsons trade.
Yep.
So I think the line went up a point. I think it was 1.5. Maybe now it's 2.5. And so there is that. And then
What's
also
weird is that open line is Lions -1 in the spring when the schedule came out. And at some point, I didn't catch it, but at some point it moved.
Yeah.
Packers -1.
Yeah.
And that was before the Micah Parsons trade. And then it moved to -1.5, or the 2.5.
2.5. Yeah.
The big move was the division odds, because the Packers were like 2.5 to 1 to win the division. And now they're the favorite, I think, plus 165. I haven't checked everywhere. I know there's been a little bit of movement there. They're now even with the Lions on Super Bowl odds, on division odds. So the betting public and the odds makers seem to believe the Packers are slightly better than the Lions, at least in the regular season. I think last time I checked, the Packers were 6 to 1 in the NFC, or plus 650 in the NFC. Lions were 6 to 1. So to win the conference, the Lions are still slightly ahead. Did I nail that?
No.
Oh, no, it's flipped.
And again, every book is different. Every book is
well,
different.
that's true. I do wonder if the Packers money has flooded in. Like, that would not surprise me. And so you've had to shorten those odds up a little bit.
Yeah, it's not surprising, but the bottom line though is, as good as the defense can look, and you also think that too, but this is going to free up the opportunity for the other younger and even the guys that are looking to develop, Lucas Van Ness and so forth,
who had a great camp. He was awesome in camp.
And now he didn't have to worry about maybe being one of the top guys to worry about. Oh, they're going to worry about this guy. It's going to free me up to maybe be the player that I know that I could develop to be. So yeah, that's going to make things even interesting to find out who else is going to benefit from this. As far as
I think the offense is one of the, like, Jordan Love is one of the low key beneficiaries here, because there were times last year. I think I counted it up, and there were 4 games last year where the Packers needed to get a stop to give the offense the ball back with a chance to win, and failed to get that stop. One time they needed to, and they got it. And Micah Parsons is a closer.
Yes.
You need to go get a stop on 3rd and 8. 3rd and 8. Packers got the Lions in Detroit to 3rd and, I think it was 3rd and 8. And Amon-Ra St. Brown beats Keyshawn Nixon for a first down. They end up getting into field goal range, kick the game-winning field goal. That game was tied. If that's Micah Parsons out there, Jared Goff might have to get that ball out a little sooner. That ball might be not quite as accurate. It might be a little behind him, might be a little in front of him. He can be a difference maker and maybe give Jordan Love more opportunities to go win the game, because, like, against the Texans, Jordan Love got the ball back with 2 minutes left, and he moonwalked down the field. Against one of the best defenses in the NFL, and they got the game-winning score. Giving Jordan Love more of those opportunities. You want to make the case for Jordan Love at 20 to 1 to win the MVP, maybe down to 16 to 1 now. That is, I think, a great case, because the Packers are going to have more opportunities, or you need a stop late to win. Let's say the Packers are up 27-24 and a team's trying to throw the ball on them to win. JJ McCarthy, Caleb Williams, Jared Goff, Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson. Now you have a player who can just go get a bucket for you, can just go make that game-winning play for you. Jordan Love, 20-1.
Yeah. So what have you noticed so far during this preseason, this camp, compared to last year for Jordan? And I know the injury to start the season had a lot to do with, or at least you would believe that had a lot to do with how his season went.
Oh, definitely.
But so you're not really seeing a big difference between last year's camp and this year's camp, and you could just really point to that injury as being that's the primary factor, and everything should be where he should be picking up again. As long as he stays away from injury, he should be picking up again where he left off with the championship game. I mean, with the playoff game a couple of years ago at San Francisco.
I think so. He was noticeably more in control of everything that was happening this year, I would say, and accurate balls on face masks consistently. And I talked to Steve Calhoun, who is his personal QB coach. In fact, today for The Leap, a newsletter I would love for you to subscribe to, about that. And Steve gave me this incredible quote. He said, when Jordan is on balance, he can knock the wing off a butterfly. When he's playing with good fundamentals and has his feet underneath him, he can make any throw. The problem is when you don't have confidence in your base, you're going to revert to some of the bad habits that Jordan Love has, some of the, back foot fadeaway jumpers that he likes to throw.
Yeah.
And so when you can't drive through throws and you can't be on balance because your MCL is partially torn or your groin is, in tatters. Go back and watch the Lions game, the first one. He couldn't move in that game. I mean, he could barely walk, it seemed at times in that game. I really think he shouldn't have been out there, frankly. And so him having his feet underneath him, that was the focus all off season, playing with balance, playing with his ability. I mean, he last year against the Texans, the touchdown he threw to Tucker Kraft, which was the healthiest he'd been all year. He got hurt again the next game and with the groin injury. He threw the fastest ball in the next gen sports era. Faster than Josh Allen, faster than Justin Herbert. It was like a 60+ mile an hour football, which is flying. He has a hose when he's healthy. If he can stay healthy, I think this is the year you see the best version of Jordan Love in this offense. And I think what you're going to see is Matt LaFleur be a little more aggressive early in these games. Take the ball on the kickoff. Throw the ball a little bit earlier, because if you can get a lead, Micah can shut the door for you. And I think that allows you to play a little bit differently. If you're Matt LaFleur, be a little bit more aggressive. Try and, you're always trying to score, right? But maybe play a little less methodical, understanding your defense has this one guy who can just change the game for you.
Interesting. So for anybody who likes to bet first quarters, maybe the Packers are a team to keep an eye on.
And they were slow starters last year. And so you're probably going to get good odds, at least early in the season, on some of those first quarter bets. Keeping
him healthy, the offensive line has a lot to do with that. So, I mean, every year it seems like I look at this Packers offensive line, it's completely different. I don't know where guys are going, what position. Zach Tom seems to be the one guy that's the most constant, at least for the last year or so. But are they as set as they can be? Do you think they've got the offensive line personnel now to be a winning line?
I mean, I think it's going to be a winning line because that's just what they do. They have a top 10 offensive line most years, somewhere between 8 and 12, seemingly every year. But we haven't had that season where we've seen them be, with the Eagles, with the Lions. They just haven't been in that category because they have a lot of good, not great players. And I think that's true this year. But what we saw in the preseason was Jordan Morgan, their first round pick last year, was given a chance to compete with Rasheed Walker. And I didn't think coming out of school that Jordan Morgan was a tackle. I thought he was a guard. And so I was like, this is silly. Let him compete at right guard. He can beat out Sean Ryan for that right guard spot. They let him compete at tackle. And it sounds like Rasheed Walker is going to start week 1. Now, last year, Jordan Morgan rotated with Sean Ryan at right guard. Are we going to see a tackle rotation? 2 years ago, when Jordan Love was a first-time starter, this is crazy, a first-time starter, they were rotating Yosh Nijman and Rasheed Walker to see who could win that left tackle job. And then in the second half, when they were playing great, and even into the playoffs, they had a platoon at right guard in the playoffs. That is unheard of. It was John Runyon Jr. and Sean Ryan. So they are not afraid to say, we're going to give both of you chances. And over the course of the season, we're going to let the best guy decide who he is.
Sure.
And Rasheed Walker, I don't think is going to be on this team in a year. Because I think in free agency, $20 to $25 million a year is on the table for him. That's what starting tackles get paid now. Starting guards The Packers paid 19 for Aaron Banks.
Mm-hmm.
So he's set at left guard. If he's healthy, he's dealing with a back injury. If it's not, it's Jordan Morgan. And so Elton Jenkins also dealing with a back injury. It sounds like they're optimistic he can go. My guess is Sean Ryan is going to play center if he doesn't, and then Jordan Morgan slides in at right guard. So they have a ton of flexibility. They really like Anthony Belton, their second-round pick this year from North Carolina State, but he's inconsistent. I still think they go 6 or 7 deep on this offensive line, and I say this all the time. Locked On Packers fans know, my followers on social media know. I think the Packers have 6 or 7 guys that they would be comfortable playing real snaps for them, and half the league doesn't have 5 of those guys. So offensive line is a war of attrition. You have to be healthy. If you're not, most teams get much worse when their backups have to play. The Packers are lucky that, especially if Jordan Morgan is that guy, they don't get much worse, if at all.
Receivers, we know that was a big discussion in the offseason, the draft. They went out and got their Matthew Golden. No surprise he's looked as good as he has. He looks like he's going to be a big part of this offense. So what do you think as far as the receiving unit now compared to what they've had the last few seasons?
I don't know how different it's going to be in the aggregate, but I think Matthew Golden gives them a player who on 3rd and 8 can just go win. And that's the kind of player they just have not had. So when they're rolling, when they're in rhythm, I call it the most egalitarian offense in the NFL. It is the Warriors ball finds energy, because it's just Jordan Love throwing to whoever is open. And on a given week, it could be a Dontavian Wicks week. It could be a Jaden Reed week. It could be a Romeo Dobbs week. Christian Watson. I think week 5, you're going to see Christian Watson, like minimum PUP time, and then he's back. But Matthew Golden has just looked like their bucket getter this season. We saw it multiple times in the preseason. One of them on Sauce Gardner, where he beats him and Sauce has to grab him. And we saw it on Family Night, which is not a real thing, but he made a couple plays on Family Night as well. So this is a young player who I cannot remember a rookie. I've been doing this, professionally for 10 years and watching the Packers for, many, many more, 30 plus years. I cannot remember a rookie garnering this sort of attention, accolade, and hype coming into a season. And so maybe that's because it's been 20 years since they drafted a receiver.
Yeah.
But I think if they had drafted a defensive player this good, everyone would be talking about it. It would be a big deal. And it just hasn't happened. So they're trying not to do the thing that everyone is doing in Tampa and saying Emeka Egbuka is going to be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
But that, I think behind closed doors, if you put them on lie detectors, if you got enough bourbon and Matt LaFleur, he'd probably tell you, we think this guy can be an absolute star. Has
Savion Williams shown anything?
He's been hurt. He had the labrum injury coming in, and then he got back and then got a concussion, and then re-injured the shoulder. And so it's really been tough. He's been back practicing this week, but I would think we won't see Savion Williams in a meaningful role for the Packers until Halloween at the earliest. There may be some packages he works in on. I'm still waiting for them to say, we're going to try him on kick returns, because I just think with the new rules, he would be devastating in a situation like that.
Okay.
What's most interesting to me is I assumed they wanted to test run Savion Williams as a power slot, as that gadget guy, jet motion, screens, schemed up touches, a lot like he was used at TCU. He's playing a real receiver for the Packers and has been making plays in camp when he has been out there. So I think that's interesting that they're like, no, we're going to see if he can actually do more than just some of that other stuff.
Okay.
I don't know what the future of Jaden Reed is in this offense. I don't know if they want to give him, like, if he wants the Khalil Shakir deal, he might be back he'd probably be back in Green Bay at that price. If he wants more than that, it starts to be a question, really. And him and Dontavian Wicks both are going to want contracts in a year, in next spring.
Yeah, you probably can't pay them both.
And you probably can't pay them both. And you might not pay either of them, honestly. Like, that's where we are right now, because this is a big show me year for those guys. Dontavian Wicks already seems to be behind Matthew Golden right now in the pecking order. When the Packers opened training camp in 12 personnel, two receivers on the field, it was Romeo Dobbs and Matthew Golden, not Dontavian Wicks. So that's, especially for like fantasy purposes, those kinds of things. Like we put out on social, I think the over under on Matthew Golden this year is like 700 yards.
Okay.
And I think if he plays 17 games, he is going to.
I believe that. Yeah.
Like backstroke into the over.
Yeah, I agree. He's like he seems like the perfect receiver for Jordan Love. So that's going to be a nice relationship. Anybody that they cut that was a surprise?
Isaiah Simmons was a little bit of a surprise because he'd been running with the ones when they were in base defense. Jeff Hafley likes to play a decent amount of base defense, played base 27% of the time last year or thereabouts. So to go from, he was the first team punt gunner. Rich Bisaccia as a madman had a linebacker, a 6'4", 235-pound linebacker out there as the punt gunner. But Isaiah Simmons ran, what did he run? 4.41, 4.38, something crazy like that. So he's not your normal guy in that position. He's as fast as most corners or most receivers that you're going to put in that spot. That was really the only one where you just sort of went, oh, that's interesting that they went that direction. And I think the most surprising thing about what happened in camp was they kept 6 defensive tackles. Well, cutdown day was Tuesday. Micah Parsons was traded for on Thursday. I think they knew Tuesday Kenny Clark was out the door. And so they kept 6 of these guys, the 2 rookies and Colby Wooden, because they knew they were going to need that depth. You have this Mecole Hardman would be the other one. I think he's an obvious elevation week 1 off the practice squad. He is going to be, I think, their kick returner, their punt returner. And we'll see what happens when Christian Watson comes back, what kind of decisions they have to make there. But those were the 2, because they're veterans and their names. Those were the 2 that were relatively surprising.
And as far as injured players, you mentioned Watson. So unfortunately, Lloyd gets hurt again. This is not good. You can't start your career off like this. Colin Oliver is a very interesting player because I really loved his game in college. But unfortunately, he's now banged up. So
he now has the best mentor he could ask for in Micah Parsons in terms of play style. I mean, they're built very similarly. They have similar. They win in potentially similar ways. Oliver is so twitchy and so explosive, but he's undersized, and so it's like, okay, just work out with that guy every day. Watch film with that guy every day, and that'll help you, I think.
So you think we're going to get all 3 of those players back potentially by almost midseason?
Well, the Lloyd, I think he starts on IR because he's been so banged up. I don't think the injury was as bad as like, oh, he needs another month to get healthy. I think it's just like he was hurt last year too, twice. And so they really want to make sure he's in good shape. He went to the University of Wisconsin at Madison, has this incredible sports science program where you go and you get body scans and DEXA scans and they put you through a battery of tests to try and figure out if your body's moving the right way. And they thought they had this all figured out. So for him to have another set of soft tissue injuries is just brutal. But I think Watson and Lloyd for sure are going to be back here and contribute in some meaningful way for them. They did, I think, designate Jacob Monk at cutdown day as an IR to return.
Okay.
So that allows him to come back. That gives them a little bit more depth. I think, frankly, if we're being honest, they don't want Jacob Monk to play again. He just has not shown enough developmentally, I think, to be someone that they feel like they can rely on. And John Williams feels to me like a stash. They really like him, but he's been hurt all of camp. We have not seen him take a single rep. The same with Colin Oliver. So anything they get out of either of those 2 guys this year, I think would be, gravy.
And wrapping up, again, we talked a little bit about the matchup already. Week 1 against the Lions. The total, by the way, the win total for the Packers is 10.5.
Yep.
Which seems kind of low to me.
Well, and what's interesting is that there's juice on the under of 10.5. So they moved it from 9.5 to 10.5, but they still got like considerably. I think it was last time I checked, it was like 10.5, but the under was minus 145 or something.
Yeah, I have to check it.
So that I thought that was weird. Like the over 9.5, there's a bunch of juice. I think that's minus 160, and then the under 10.5 is minus 140. So it's like, the odds makers think they're a 10-win team exactly, and they can't really figure out what to do beyond that.
Yeah, but that's surprising. I mean, 10 wins. That means that you're saying that 10 is 1 game over 9. I mean, come on, 9 and 8. No, yeah, I can't imagine 10
crazy
and 7.
To me. It's a tough schedule, but like they're going to be favored most of the games. Like I think they will not be favored in Detroit, but their road schedule is awfully easy. Like if you go through their road schedule, the best teams they play at home. They play the Eagles at home. They play the Ravens at home. Like at Pittsburgh, is that going to be super tough? I think it's going to be the division games are the ones that at Denver is going to be tricky.
Yeah.
And then they have that stretch. You just pull it up. It's at Denver. At At Denver, at Chicago, home for Baltimore, at Minnesota to close the season. That's a tough stretch.
Yeah, it is.
But are the Bears going to be good? We don't know. They could be favored in that game in Chicago too. We'll see if they're favored at home against the Ravens. If both of those teams are 12-win teams, they probably will be, right? So I think that they can. I think they can be a 12-win team. I thought they were 11 or 12-win team before the Parsons trade. I think they can be a 12 or 13-win team this year with Micah Parsons, assuming that back checks out, and I think it's going to.
Well, if you're 12-1 to win the Super Bowl, I think your win total should be over 10. So
that seems crazy, right? That doesn't make sense, right?
No,
it
doesn't.
That seems weird.
It probably hasn't just caught up somehow, maybe a lot of the money's just going on the Super Bowl and it hasn't gone yet to the win total yet. Maybe, I don't know. But hey, take advantage of it. So Peter, I really appreciate you taking the time today. I know how busy it is for you with the Micah Parsons deal and the season kicking off. And I hope that we get the opportunity to do this during the season. It won't be as long. We'll maybe take a look at a couple of games during the season. Yep. And again, links in the description for all your work. You do such a great job. And again, I appreciate you joining me today.
Yep. Anytime.
Thanks, Peter. All right, that's Peter Bukowski. And again, you could check out the lead. I keep saying the Leap newsletter. I guess I keep saying the lead because really, when do I ever say Leap? I know Packers fans. I know you guys do. I don't. So I got to get used to it. It's the Leap newsletter. There's a link in the description of this video right here if you haven't checked that out yet. Also, Locked On Packers podcast, Locked On Sports Today, the flagship show for Locked On. That says a lot about how they value Peter and the work that he does. So once again, if you're new, check it out. You can't find a better place to follow the Packers. Again, just going over everything. They're a 2.5-point favorite week 1, 10.5 on the total for the wins, as we just went over. The division favorite right now at plus 165 and 12-1 to win the Super Bowl. So that's what you got for the Green Bay Packers. Don't forget to subscribe here if you haven't done that already to Proline TV and the Our Lads Football Network. If you've been here, if you haven't been here before, keep in mind that Peter is the 30th team analyst that we have talked to preview the season. So we have 2 more to go. That's coming up 4:00 and 5:00 Eastern today. We're going to talk about the New Orleans Saints at 4. We're going to talk about the Cincinnati Bengals at 5. That means that if you check out our NFL section, you'll see at the end of the day, 32 NFL team season preview videos. So check that out. Also, if you're a big college football fan, we have a bunch of college football season preview videos as well. And we're already into the season. So for instance, yesterday, I think it was yesterday, these days go by so quickly now, I interviewed Tom Kakert from Hawkeye Report about the Iowa State game. So now we're into, just like hopefully I'll be doing later this year with Peter, where, hey, Peter, there's a big game coming up. Let's talk about it. Spend 10 or 15 minutes with you. That's what we're doing already with our football analysts. So right now you can check out, though, we got a library full of season preview videos. And if you're into checking out exactly what we thought of for certain teams or basically who we thought to make the playoffs, if you're into all that, check it out. We've got all those prediction videos. I've got sleepers for college football, Group 5. Matter of fact, it's only been 1 week. But we did pick South Florida over Boise State. Long way to go, but we like South Florida. We like them as a team to keep an eye on to win the Group of 5 to get to the 12-team playoff. And we risked everything with week 1 regarding the game against Boise. We admitted it, but we got through it. And there you go. So you can check that out because we're not going to be right on everything. But the bottom line is just chock full of information. Jim Feist, who is a legendary handicapper from Las Vegas. You'll see him at the top of the hour at 3:00 if you're listening and watching live. He'll have 2 additional handicappers, longtime handicappers. These guys are legends of the industry. They're out in Las Vegas. They do a show starting today, every Wednesday at 3:00. So you can check that out if you want to hear what the legends of the industry in handicapping sound like. Check that out later today, or just check it out on demand if you're watching this show on demand. And then you check out all the other shows that we're going to be having on a weekly basis, from college football, NFL, fantasy football, everything all week long. And again, we've got the great handicappers here that have been through the ringer for many years. So you can't find a better channel that's going to cover handicapping, general news, rumors, and have guys like Peter on, the best of the business, covering the teams, representing their teams. And again, we want to thank Peter for doing that. And we're going to get out of here. So again, check out our show later today. New Orleans at 4, Cincinnati had 5. And if you're watching on demand, check it on demand. And we'll see everybody real soon here next time on Proline TV on the Ourlads Football Network.